Dear students, in this session we will learn about the dissections, wherein now that the dissecting of live animals has been banned, you will study this certain systems or organs with the help of chart or models or with the help of videos. So in this session I'll be explaining you the dissection of earthworm, wherein you will learn about the nervous system of earthworm and the ovary in earthworm and the setae, the locomotory structures in earthworm, followed by dissection in leech also, wherein you will learn about the digestive system of leech, jaw and its nephridium. So first let's begin with earthworm. Now the first system that we will be studying is earthworm nervous system. Now nervous system here we'll study with respect to pheretima. So nervous system and pheretima, it's very well developed. It's concentrated and it consists of central nervous system, peripheral nervous system and sympathetic nervous system. Now first let's look at the central nervous system. It includes mainly the following structures like the cerebral ganglia, the circumpharyngeal connective and the ventral nerve cord. Now the central nervous system, it consists of a brain not exactly like a vertebrate brain. It is in the form of a ganglion or a two cluster of ganglions which are pear shaped, and they are called as cerebral ganglion, which are fused together at the third segment, and this is called as the brain. You can see here the cerebral ganglion at the third segment, and these are the two ganglions which are fused to form brain. Now these two ganglions, they are they give rise to connectives through which from this brain a pair of circumpharyngeal connective arise, one on each side. They encircle the pharynx and they meet ventrally in the fourth segment to form a subpharyngeal ganglion. So here you can see from the cerebral ganglion here in the third segment, there are two ganglions here on either side, and they give rise to this thin connective here, if you see, and that is what is called as circumpharyngeal connective, this thin connective, and that fuses at the base forming subpharyngeal ganglion. Thus a nerve collar is formed around the pharynx, which is called as a nerve ring or brain ring. Now from this subpharyngeal ganglion, it gave rise to a nerve cord, that is a ventral nerve cord, which is white rod-like structure which starts running from the subpharyngeal ganglion towards the posterior end. Now in each segment, this ventral nerve cord swells up, which is forming a segmental ganglion. Here you can see in every segment the nerve cord, here it comes as a cord and swells up in each segment forming segmental ganglion. Now if you look at these ventral nerve cord, it appears as a single nerve cord, but basically it is made up of two. There are two cords which are fused together to form a single ventral nerve cord. So this nerve cord is composed of nerve cells and nerve fibers. So structurally, I said this nerve cord is not a single one, it is made up of double nerve cards which are enclosed in a common sheath called as perineurium. And this perineurium, which is a covering of this nerve card, it is made up of three layers: the outer peritoneum, the middle longitudinal muscle layer, and the inner thick fibrous layer of epineurium. Okay, so what are the three layers? Peritoneum, the outer peritoneum, the middle longitudinal muscle layer, and the inner thick fibrous layer of epineurium. Now the nerve cards are solid, consisting of nerve cells and fibers. Both the nerve cards are separated internally by a vertical epineurium. Now, which is the innermost layer of this covering of the ventral nerve card? That is epineurium. So when we say there are two nerve cards and they are connected with each other, that means they are separated by one vertical epineurium. The ventrolateral regions of this nerve card contain bipolar and tripolar nerve cells all along the length and the middle region, as many nerve fibers with supporting neuroganglia. Running longitudinally in the upper part of the nerve card are four gained nerve fibers surrounded by epineurium. They are all tubular and filled with homogeneous plasma-like matter. Now these are responsible for rapid conduction of impulses throughout the nerve card. However, in the region of the segmental ganglion, the partition between the two nerve cards is absent. This describes the structure of a ventral nerve card. Now coming to the peripheral nervous system. This includes the nerve fibers or the nerves which arise from central nervous system. So from cerebral ganglion you have 8 to 10 nerves arise and supply to the prostomium, the buccal chamber and the pharynx. Observe this diagram clearly, and this will give you an idea as to how nerves are formed from this central nervous system. Okay, from cerebral ganglion you have around 8 to 10 nerves arising which supplies to the anterior region of the earthworm, mainly going to the prostomium, the buccal chamber and the pharynx. From the circumpharyngeal connectives, two pairs of nerves arise and supply to the first and the second segment. And the subpharyngeal ganglion, three pairs of nerves arise and supply to the second, the third and the fourth segment. And from each segmental ganglion, three pairs of nerves arise and supply to that respective segment. And this forms the peripheral nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system mainly consists of the nerve plexus, that is the network of nerve fibers extensively branched and distributed beneath epidermis, the alimentary canal that is connected to circumpharyngeal connectives. And this helps in coordinating the functions of those related internal organs. So this forms the sympathetic nervous system of earthworm. Now coming to earthworm's ovary. Now if you observe this diagram picture here, ovaries are seen as clusters, yellow colored clustered structures here, and they are present in pairs and they are seen in the 13th segment. Okay, so ovaries are a part of the female reproductive system, and in Pheretima the female reproductive system as a whole, if you see, it consists of ovary, the oviducal funnel and the spermatheca. So you may be wondering why spermatheca, which is it's considered under the female reproductive system, because here The spermathecae are the ones which stores the sperms in them, and then through which the transfer of sperms takes place during copulation. So generally it is included under female reproductive system. Now if you talk about ovaries, they are a pair of ovaries situated at the 13th segment, hanging on the septum between the 12th and the 13th segment. So if you see, if this is the intersegmental septum, if you consider this to be a intersegmental septum, here it is 12th segment and here it is 13th. The hangs from this 12th segment intersegmental groove, and the ovaries are found in the 13th segment. So each ovary has this finger-like projections. Can you see here? They have all these finger-like projections which contain ova in series. If you observe here, you have many ovaries that are present in ascending order of development. So the matured ova are found on the base of these lobules. Towards this end, whatever you find here are the matured ovaries, but here the ones which you find are immature ones. So the mature ova are found towards the end, and the immature ova are found on the base of the lobules of the ovary. So this describes the ovary in case of earthworm. Now the next structure that you learn is setae. Now what are setae? We said that setae are the locomotory organs or the locomotory structures that helps in movement. Now where do you find them? About the middle of each segment there is a ring of tiny curved bristles called as setae, and they are formed of horny nitrogenous organic matter known as chitin. So they are little hard chitinous structures. On each body segment there are around 80 to 120 setae. See, on each body segment, in one segment you find around 80 to 120 of them. And in which are the segment that lack this setae? The first segment, that is the peristomium, the pygidium, the last segment which bears anus, and the clitellum, which is a glandular structure. If you can recollect the morphology of earthworm that you have learned, it is in this clitellum there were no setae, in peristomium no setae, and even in pygidium you didn't find any setae. So this picture shows you the presence of setae. Can you see these protruded ones here in each segment? These are the chitinous structures, the setae. Now if you look at the structure of this setae, each setae is an S-shaped structure. See, this is the diagram that shows how setae are formed from the setal sacs. So each setae is an S-shaped and faint yellowish in color. Now here you may not be able to see the S-shaped one, but here if you see, you can clearly see it is an S-shaped structure. It has pointed distal end and a blunt proximal end and a center swelling called as nodulus. So this center swelled portion is called as the nodulus. About 1/3 of the setae projects above the body wall, which is called the neck of the setae. So this protruded region of setae is what is called as neck of the setae, and the part which is embedded in the setal sac is called as the base. This whole thing is the base of the setae. The setal sac is formed by the invagination of the epidermis of the body wall, and each setae is formed in this setal sac. So which is the setal sac here? This is the setal sac, okay, and this is formed by the invagination, matlab inward projection of this body wall. And one pair of protractor muscles, and retractor muscle are associated with each setal sac. Now, which is the protractor muscle here? It is this. This is the protractor muscle and this is the retractor muscle. This is the retractor and here the upper one is the protractor muscle. The protrusion and retraction of the setae are effected by the protractor and the retractor muscles respectively. That means when the setae is protruded out and it has to be retracted back, this is done by the protractor and the retractor muscles. The setae grip the soil to help the earthworm move about and sense the environment. They are absent in peristomium and the pygidium, and they are dropped in the mature worm from the region of the clitellum. Like, because we know that clitellum, those few segments 14 to 16, they become highly glandular, and when they become glandular they shed off this setae. Now this will give you much more detailed information about the structure of setae. So we said it is an S-shaped one, and this describes the basic structure of a setae, the neck, the nodulus and the base, and this is how it is embedded in the setal sac. And this protrusion and retraction is coordinated by protractor and the retractor muscles. And this is how the setae is arranged in various ways. Like, they can be arranged like this as a pair of two in octine arrangement, or they could be present all over the setae, and this arrangement varies from species to species. Now, when you look at the arrangement of setae, when you look at the arrangement of setae, it is also helps us to identification of what species of earthworm it is. For example, across the middle line of each segment, a ring of setae is arranged in the body wall around the segment. Then it is called as periketine arrangement, which you see in Pheretima posthuma. Whereas you find closely arranged or 8 setae which are arranged in pairs. This kind of arrangement is called as oligoketine arrangement, which you see in Lumbricus, like this. So here it is octoketine arrangement because they are 8 in number. Here 2, 2, 2 and 2. And whereas in case of periketine arrangement, it is arranged all over the body like this, or even it can be scatteredly arranged like this, all over like this, or in pairs of 2 like this. So this is with respect to the arrangement of setae. So far you have learned about the dissection in earthworm, which explains nervous system in earthworm, ovary in earthworm and the setae in earthworm. Moving on, the next organism that you have is to the leech. In leech you will study about its digestive system, the jaw and the testicular nephridium. Now, digestive system in case of leech, this is the diagram that shows you the alimentary canal in case of leech. Now here when you dissect this leech and cut open the tissue, cut open the body wall and clear all the boteroidal tissue, you can see the alimentary canal like this, and here it is fully exposed with separation of the skin from the underlying tissues. It is a straight tube that runs from mouth to anus, the anterior 2/3 being modified into crop. The first region of the alimentary canal, that is the preoral chamber, which is a cup-shaped depression ventral to the anterior sucker. Then the mouth. Mouth is a triradiate opening at the base of the preoral chamber guarded by the velum. It is triradiate opening because it contains 3 jaws inside the mouth, so it appears as a triradiate opening. Then the buccal cavity, it's a short chamber following the mouth. It opens into the pharynx. 3 jaws, 2 ventrolateral and 1 dorsomedial in position are present in the buccal cavity. So there are 2 ventrolaterals towards the ventral on the lateral margins, and 1 is dorsomedian in position. So pharynx here is an oval muscular chamber between buccal cavity and the esophagus. Esophagus is a very narrow tube which ends in the crop, and this crop or the stomach, which is, it occupies around 2/3 of the length of the alimentary canal. It has 10 pairs of lateral ceca, and the anterior pair is the smallest and the posterior pair is the largest of all. And the stomach, a small thin walled chamber in the 19th segment. The crop leads to a stomach, and here it is a thin walled chamber in the 19th segment, which is broad anteriorly and narrow posteriorly, and it ends in the intestine. And intestine is a narrow tube ending in rectum, and the rectum is the last part of the gut. It is wider than the intestine and narrows down posteriorly to ends in anus. And anus, if you have to describe, it's a narrow opening at the junction of the posterior sucker and the dorsal body surface on the mid-dorsal line. So this explains the alimentary canal in case of leech. So you have to support your points with the help of this diagram. This diagram needs to be written, and you have to explain all different regions of the alimentary canal. So here you can clearly see the buccal cavity leading to pharynx, and then esophagus leading to the crop, and here the crops are 10 in number, and then it leads to the stomach, and then stomach leads to intestine and rectum and anus. Now why the crop in leech is so much branched is because to store its food, and as you know they suck blood of the host, and once they find the host, the blood has to be stored in these crops for a longer time, and they keep on, the digestion process occurs very slowly because the chances of getting the host is also very rare, and it's not that the host is always available for the leeches. So once they get the host, they start sucking the blood from the host, and they remain on the host body till all the crops are full, and once it sucks off all the blood, it just drops off. And you know that it secretes enzyme called as hirudin, which prevents the clotting of blood, and because of this, these leeches were also used in ancient medicine. During operations and all, they make use of leeches to suck off all the blood. The next structure that you need to learn is about the jaw of leech. So you find these jaws in the buccal cavity, and we said they are 3 in number. 2 are ventrolateral in position, and the other one is dorsomedian in position. Each jaw is laterally compressed muscular structure, and it is covered with a fine cuticle. It is thickened at the free edges to form a ridge. Now this ridge of the jaw shows a row of minute teeth or denticles on them, and hence the jaw is termed as monostechodont. It consists of similar kind of jaws and a single layer of, a single row of denticles. The median jaw has around 103 to 128 denticles, while the lateral jaws bear 85 to 115 teeth on each jaw. On either side of the jaw, 40 to 45 salivary papillae with many openings of the salivary glands are present. So here you can observe like how the jaws are arranged in the buccal cavity along with the salivary glands. So here you can see jaws being two ventrolateral and one in the dorsal median, and here the other picture shows you the arrangement of teeth on the leech. And this is how you find many salivary papillae on the jaws, and the arrangement of teeth as well. The next structure you have is the testicular nephridium in case of leech. Now this diagram shows you the testicular nephridium in case of leech. So the excretory system consists of nephridia. There are 17 pairs of nephridia, one pair each in the 6th and the 22nd segments. The first 5 segments and the posterior 4 segments are devoid of nephridia. Of these 17 pairs, the anterior 6 pairs lie in the pretesticular segments and are called pretesticular nephridia, and the remaining 11 pairs in the testicular segments and are called testicular nephridia. So this is how the typical testicular nephridium consists of these structures. One is the main lobe, the apical lobe, initial lobe, the ciliated organ, the inner lobe, and the vesical duct and vesicle. Now let us discuss these structures individually. The main lobe. The main lobe, here you look at the diagram and then try to follow what has been explained. That makes your understanding better. The main lobe is an horseshoe shaped structure and ventrolateral in position. The main lobe consists of two unequal limbs, the anterior and the posterior. The anterior limb is larger in size than the posterior, and the two together at their junction form the bend of the horseshoe shape. Then the apical lobe. The posterior limb of the main lobe passes forward to form the stout apical lobe. It lies in an antero-posterior position below the gut. Its anterior is bent upon itself. The initial lobe. It runs as an extremely long and slender lobe twined around the apical lobe. Now here what is labeled as 2 is the initial lobe, and the one which is labeled 3 is the apical lobe. Okay, so this initial lobe, it runs as an extremely long and slender lobe twined around the apical lobe. At its anterior extremity, it runs as a slender thread of cells towards the testis sac and ends abruptly by the side of the perinephrostomial ampulla. A perinephrostomial ampulla. While at its posterior extremity, it joins the main lobe near the point of emergence of the vesical duct. The next is the ciliated organ. The ciliated organ lies in the perinephrostomial ampulla. It is a compound structure made up of central reservoir and ciliated funnels. The reservoir is spongy in nature. The ciliated funnels are present in large number on the wall of this reservoir. Each funnel is like an earlobe having a broad distal end and a proximal neck which fits into pores situated on the wall of the reservoir. The funnel is made up of 5 to 6 cells arranged in 2 tiers and is densely ciliated, and the ciliated organ has no excretory role in adult leeches and is associated with hemocoelomic system. The inner lobe. It lies in the inner concavity of the main lobe and runs forward along the outer border of the apical lobe about half its length. The vesicle duct and the vesicle. So the inner end of the anterior limb of the main lobe give rise to this vesicle duct. The vesicle duct opens into the terminal vesicle, and this vesicle is a large oval sac lying behind the nephridium and fixed to the ventrolateral body wall, and the vesicle leads into a narrow canal which perforates the body wall and opens to outside as nephridiopore. So this is the structure of a nephridiopore in case of leeches, and um, you know these are the systems or the structures that you had to learn as a part of dissection in leeches. Like we have learned the digestive system in leech, the jaw, and the testicular nephridium. So thanks for listening. Have a nice time.